BVR stands for Biometric Voter Registration. It's a voter registration system that is based on biometric identification. And the biometric features here we use for identification are actually the fingerprints. But of course, there are other biometric features which can be used for other purposes of identification, like the iris scan. You can also do, like your facial recognition, the hand geometry. But for the purpose of voter registration, we are focusing on fingerprint identification. So the technology in itself comprises a standard laptop, a digital camera or a webcam, a fingerprint reader, and in this particular case we are using the 442 slab scanners, where you place four fingers at a go, and then the two. And then we have a photo backdrop to ensure that we have a consistent image background, regardless of where it is taken, as well as a backup power supply, of course, because we deploy these technologies in rural areas which are not adequately served with commercial power. So those are the major components of this technology, and all these components are carried in a very convenient, ruggedized carrying case made of corrosion-free material, which is also leak and impact resistant. In terms of how the technology works, what happens is that a voter presents himself or herself at a registration center. They provide their documents for identification, in which case the identification document here refers to a valid Kenyan passport or a national ID card. And they present this to the registration officials, who then welcome them, sit them down, and then they capture their data, which is information that is used to identify them or register them as voters. Basically, you're talking about your document number, if it is your passport number, your ID card number, your names, your gender, your dates of birth, basic demographic data that relates to a specific individual. In addition to that, then we capture the fingerprints, and we are capturing the 10 of them in the 442 sequence, as well as a facial image. This information is directly captured into the laptop that is attached to these mobile voter registration kits. And then before the information is actually saved to the database, you are given opportunity to confirm the completeness and accuracy of that information. And once that is then done, you are issued with an acknowledgement receipt, which evidences the fact that you have been registered as a voter. The receipt that we give you is just an acknowledgement, and you are not required by law to produce it for the purpose of voting. The Elections Act in Article 10.2 is very clear that a voter presents himself or herself at a polling station with the original document that they used at the time of registration. This document is either a valid Kenyan passport or a national ID card. So the acknowledgement slip we are giving you is just to remind you that as you leave this station, we have taken your records and this is where you are registered, but you are not required by law to come back with it, and we will not be asking for those during polling. Because of this deployment of the biometric technology, and I say it is based on fingerprint identification, we use a system that is called EFIS. EFIS is Automated Fingerprint Identification System. It is the one that allows us first to check whether there are multiple registrations across the country, and it's also the same technology that we use to uniquely identify individuals. So when you arrive at a polling station, we are going to use another technology which is based on this same EFIS, which then allows you an opportunity to swipe your fingerprints, and the system will tell whether your record exists in that polling station where you have presented yourself, and if so, then the system automatically marks you as having been allowed to proceed to vote. And then you proceed and you are given your ballot papers, you cast your ballots manually, and the rest of the process as the same way we have done it in all the by-elections and in the referendum. If you look at straight averages, it is 15,000 kits against 25,000 or so registration centers. You would work out and see that actually on average one kit would be shared between 1.6 registration centers, or maybe put it 2. Now what we have done is, first, we have identified areas that cannot possibly share kits because of the vastness of the area. The geography, the terrain is very difficult, extremely difficult to navigate in terms of means of communication moving from one station to another. The population may not be very high, and so in those particular cases we are allocating them dedicated kits which will be fixed to those polling stations where registration will be happening. In some areas, like in Nairobi, The areas, the constituencies may not be very vast. Excellent means of communication, but the population is extremely high. On average, in terms of the configuration of the kit, it can carry up to 5,000 voter records, including the facial images and the 10 fingerprints. But on average, in terms of the data capture, we estimate that it will take between 5 to 10 minutes to register a voter. And we are very confident that a minimum of between 50 and 120 can be captured on a kit per day, but this also depends, one, on the flow of traffic. Are people there when they are expected? Because if everybody comes an hour before we close, we may not be able to handle that if we must close at a particular time. Then the other one is the speed of the people that are capturing this information, and we have recruited people that are actually ICT literate. So at a minimum for us, if we can capture 40 voters per kit per day, you realize that in one day we'll actually be doing like 600. In 30 days, we have 18 million. We take a cascaded approach to training, where we have trained trainers who then, from the supplier, who then deliver similar training to our own staff, and this staff then go back to the regions and deliver the same training to the next level, up to the level where we have the registration officers who will be actually doing the enrollment. So we have distributed it, and it's actually starting next week across, I think, 7 centers countrywide. So that is the approach we have taken. But we know it's possible for you to duplicate an identification document. It is possible for people to come up with fake or forged documents, in which case then it may not be foul-proof as such. When we talk about biometric, and I said it uses fingerprints to identify individuals, I use the word to uniquely identify. It offers a high level of precision in terms of identification. Biometric features are unique to individuals. They cannot be copied, they cannot be duplicated, they cannot be forged. Now what then it means is that you can come today here and register, if this is a registration center, as Roderick, with your proper names. I capture your 10 fingerprints. You go to the next station and you register yourself possibly as Dismas. As much as you are changing your names, the documents that you are submitting, even if they are forged, at all times you are using the same set of fingerprints. Now for me, what we use in the system to identify you is the fingerprints. Unless, of course, you come with a different set of fingerprints. That I don't know how you are going to do. The second thing is, if you expire between the registration and the date we are going to do the registration, and ideally we're supposed to be notified so that we clean up the register. Now, if that happens and somebody wanted to impersonate for you, we use technology again to identify you. You have to present your fingerprints. If you bring a dead finger, the system has got what we call a liveness check, a fake finger detection. So if you want to cut somebody's finger to go and register, if they're dead already and you want to register them with their dead fingers, the system will still not accept those fingerprints because there will be no liveness in those fingerprints. One of the users of this equipment after their registration is to support continuous voter registration, which includes requests for transfers from one electoral area to another, and the new registrations of those who are either attaining the age of 18 or people that were previously not registered but have come back now they want to be registered. That is one way. The other one is to look at how within government related agencies, for example, the Ministry of State for Immigration, who handle registration of citizens of this country, we can share that technology. In fact, the Smart Card ID project, which has been under discussion for a long time, we were involved as a commission, as interested stakeholders, and the purpose of this was to try and see where we can leverage on existing synergies. Where can we work together? Where can we cooperate? And so one of the options, although we have not, this has not quite been firmed up, that we would want to consider is whether this equipment can be used by other state agencies, like the National Registration Bureau, for the purpose of issuing smart ID cards.